Yes. My troops and we bugs and my subscribers and fellow Celtic fans. It's your Glasgow genuine here, as usual, on a Sunday. Every Sunday, every Sunday we have traffic on. So, Glasgow puts traffic on, so is me. So, here I am for you, I. Therefore. All right. So, hundreds of things happened this week, Hundreds of things happened. You know what I mean? It's just the things you have to know, my fellow Celtic fans. First of all, I'd love to talk to you about, on the comments last match of Celtic with young boys and that with Champions League, and then I wanted to talk about that situation that happened in Celtic. Why Celtic let Keogh go, the best and fantastic striker, go. Why Celtic let him go? Celtic management. Or if bringing Jota and Tierney back again strengthen, weaken Celtic. And why Celtic had to sell Keogh right before crucial Champions League game match with Aston Villa. And why board focuses not on football. That's right, troops. That's right. That's fucking factual. Why Celtic board focuses on football or to encourage fantastic players to stay or extend their contracts, but how much money they're gonna make. I discussed this January windae. Aye, 2 weeks left. Troops, 2 weeks till the end of this very January transfer windae, and we are going to. You're going to talk about me, not talk about, but just think, just make predictions, just predict who's going to join Celtic, because 2 weeks to go to the end, and we still don't know. So we know that Jota and Tierney are coming back, but is it a really good idea? Let me know in comments. So, and you think is it alright to bring Celtic legends back? So, I think if Celtic striker finds, Celtic is desperate to find a striker of Keogh's caliber. So, for what I had, this is a surprise for you from a pal. That's how I know. I've heard that it'll be Kvist Garden. He's a fantastic striker. From Sweden, I suppose, a Swedish striker. So he's a fantastic one. So if this is true, it'll be fucking great, man. Fucking great news. But let's wait till the end of the window, of that transfer window, because as you know, here at Glasgow Genuine is telling you that Celtic has that slower pace that we always have to wait for, for the news concerning transfer, But if there are the fantastic signings, so I don't know. Celtic should have pure dead brilliant signings, So, all right, yes, my troops, and we all Glasgow Genuine here. All right, so let me start with then all right, then I'm going to talk about these things like transfer window, all right. And after all, I'm going to sum up my last match of Celtic to you with young boys, all right. So let's start with why Celtic let Keogh go. Probably, they say that it was his idea. Keogh wanted to go. He just wanted to go, a couple of months back. He was thinking about it. He told the Brendan Rodgers that he wanted to leave, but we can just predict, we can just guess. We don't know what was the real reason of Keogh's going out to Celtic, just flying to France. Maybe, I don't know, he wanted to earn more. Maybe he wanted to achieve something there. That's how he wanted to leave Celtic. We don't know that. But the problem is that Celtic board, Celtic management, as you know, they sometimes, not maybe sometimes, but they just focus on there's zero strategic thinking at the Celtic board. I know, man, but it's just zero strategic thinking. Selling the best striker as Kyogo right before the crucial Champions League game with Aston Villa. It's utterly, man, irresponsible for Celtic board side. It's utterly irresponsible, man. Selling the best striker after Henrik Larsson or Scott Brown. Selling Kyogo is just highly irresponsible, man. So I don't know what will happen. Celtic is still, but it should be that way, that Celtic board should encourage these fantastic players to stay longer, to maybe extend contracts. But we have to wait for the news, man. If it'll be Finn's Garden, he's a fantastic striker, so that'll be alright. That'll be great, man. Seriously, I read something about him, so that'll be great news. Because Celtic needs a striker of Kyogo's caliber, It can. Another thing is that if Jota and Tierney's being back to Celtic, is it alright, man? I know they're legends, especially Jota. I know he's a legend, man, so Celtic. He's a fucking great striker once. But we have to ask questions if bringing back legends is alright. Plus, we don't know if he's at the same level, if he is at the same level as he was when he was playing for Celtic. We don't know if he's at that level. Maybe he is, but we don't know that. Plus, Maeda needs backup. Maeda needs backup. And Jota doesn't have his piece. Man. No. As I mentioned, Celtic needs a striker. As I mentioned, Kyogo's caliber. Left winger to back up Maeda. And someone to support as well. Callum McGregor, so we need midfield defender. So something to strengthen our defence as well. We'll wait till 2 weeks. I don't know, 2 weeks left. To the closing of the transfer window. We will see, man. We will see what the decision will be. Especially about striker. Because Celtic fucking needs a striker, man, as you know. So let's trust Brendan Rodgers, and I think he gets it right. So answer my questions. If you think that bringing back legends is right, bringing back legends to Celtic is alright. So as I was watching Brendan Rodgers' press conference, Brendan Rodgers said two things we have, the first that he personally spoken to Jota, wants him back on board, so enough to have made a direct appeal. So he also mentioned that dealers have been on worksman for some time, but the offers, the economic comforts, but Jota is a player Rodgers had been looking forward to working with, man. So there's a clear I want to scratch that edge. So the second thing is that give me confidence, man, that that Rodgers' assertion that a signing Jota, even possible signing of Tierney, which didn't go into as not enough considered to as that's when the success, he lost a striker and he wants a proper replacement, so that reassures me. It suggests me one that Maeda moved into the middle. I can agree with that. Jota moved wide left, man, so and us Indian, that's when they almost same position. We went into accept the inferior set of the option for the lane. So I can see no evidence, man. I can agree with that. At this club will meet the manager's ambition. When it comes to signing a striker, it's still we don't know. Will be another striker of Kyogo's caliber, that fantastic one. So as I mentioned, zero strategic thinking at Celtic board, Celtic management. The first one of the things is that our scouting system it can't be trusted, by the manager at all, fucking at all. Shape in any way, shape, form, it doesn't matter. So, but as you know, how do we do that? We know that for last January, man, let me focus on previous transfer windows. When he turned down virtually every option, man, so he was offered. We know it for they did the summer prior to that. So when I trusted people at the top of the club, and he stopped trusting them. Aye, because Brendan Rodgers trusted people at the board, at the top management, Celtic, and they just simply deceived him, So, the scouting network means discovered Arne Engels. Then Rodgers found trusty. He just probably identified McGowan, Haven't watched him play at every match, carefully. And this league. I think right now, our signings this window look like being Tierney and Jota. When he was signed in Ange's era, and he was a total command man, but he was someone Rodgers clearly reads and wants to work with, What I've accused Celtic of is that kind of imagination, especially at the top management, to the transfer market. And going back for two players, man, that we've already been doesn't change that view. It doesn't matter. Hero worshipped by the supporters, man. That's what I mentioned. Because Celtic really needs a fresh blood. Fresh blood means fresh blood, man. Fresh power. No legends. But if Celtic want to improve, in those in their squad, they had to improve Celtic, that. We don't fresh blood, really fresh blood, no legends, no someone who played for Celtic once. So it doesn't matter if they're a hero, The fact we don't seem to have alternative targets in mind tells you that all need to know about how much faith a manager has in those responsible for identifying talent, man. So that's what I mean, man, troops. I think if Brendan Rodgers is allowed to conduct a full rebuild, if he and Tisdale get their way, so I think then we should be too much in better place, 3 years from now. But the real concern, one of my concerns is we are at 2 weeks, man. 2 weeks till the end of transfer window. How much faith does Rodgers even have in the, the scouting department to get at what he needs right now? We don't know that. The hundreds of fucking hundreds being floated, So it's. But let me dismiss one. Lloyd Barry for Aston Villa. Barry's a left-sided attacking midfielder, so it's not a striker. So the erroneous claim that he is one, but he's playing for England's league, and for League 2, and while for regular ones, it's decent enough that Villa are offering him a new deal. It mustn't, just but hopefully a team to replace Kyogo, a Japanese international who scored 85 goals for Celtic, man. Seriously. So I don't think so Barry might sign to Celtic, but I hope so. It'll be Kvistgaarden, the best, fantastic Swedish striker. So Rodgers told us at the press conference that the club has known about Kego's situation for months. So seriously, is that true? I don't know. We allowed him to leave, man. But why the now? Why the fucking Renee club couldn't just wait for 1 week and let Kyogo just play that game, last game at Aston Villa? Celtic needs striker just now, and it has time till Wednesday, man. Seriously. I saw allowed him to leave before Aston Villa, as I mentioned. I saw a game which would not going to register a replacement. So, and to Champions League matches, man, on the horizon, so potential as 16th spot as a stake, man. So the financial reward, reaching for knockouts, say sure outweighs not a transfer we received for Kyogo. So no argument in heaven or earth will convince me it's good business to sell or start the best build a brilliant striker Kyogo just now. So, but right now we are at the club that sold its top striker just days before Champions League match, you know. One of the most critical games of the season, so it's just without having any possibility to, you know, replacing him. So worst still, the one players couldn't because they play and the possession is banned for a game. It's sure a capable aim of sort of breathtaking crew, and I don't trust us they get striker signing right. No unbet. No, just no man. So I think leaving selling our best striker without having done in unnecessary work, his replacement, it's pesh, man. It's meant to sort of, it's a negligence, man, you know. Leaving is a chance that worse trying to fob off the manager and the fans by their own options, a stopgap, you know, or like unacceptable, you know. But the manager expects quality. That manager as Brendan Rodgers, he expects that quality, you know. Somewhat in the here and now, probably for a big money, so to buy the hard accountancy types, you know. So as you know, we need that striker. We need that one. I don't know if it's alright, but the very act of rolling out ex-players as marquee signings, but during the windae versus Villa, a principal asked if emerging stronger on solid defeat. I view that club is grossly unprofessional at times, you know. So legends signing legends once again as Jota. I don't know if it's alright. Plus, it should be really, really, really fresh blood. Plus, utterly irresponsible to sell Kyogo just now. It's utterly irresponsible, man. I'm going to say I repeat it one time and time again. Because I really love Celtic and I think this club should strengthen. That's how we need to, someone new, someone fantastic, you know. They knew we were desperate to get a fantastic striker. So I hope it turns out in 2 weeks' time. But during these 2 weeks, I left till the end of that window. So, as you know, I suppose it will happen one day. In these 2 weeks, all right. Let's trust Brendan once again. So the new let me. I'm not going to talk about the match which was on supposed to be on yesterday, but it was cancelled, postponed because of that storm, a gale, Eowyn in Glasgow. So they just the storm just damaged Celtic Park, some of the north side of Celtic Park. So that's how yesterday's match was postponed with Dundee at 5th of February. So seriously, I'm with Glasgow. So my Glasgow, stay safe. My Glasgow pals, stay safe. I love you. So alright, safety first. It's a priority, man. Then great that at one side is great that Celtic yesterday's match of Celtic was postponed, moving to the other day. So that's alright, man. So let me move on to Celtic match with young boys. Oh, what a game that was, troops! What a game that was. Celtic and young boys, alright at Celtic Park, but man, seriously, 3 goals offside. How that happened? Celtic young boys, how that happened? Kyogo striked a shot, 3 goals offside, man. 3 times offside. Seriously. It was just one, no offside, man. 3 offside goals, man. Seriously. Alright, well that match was I don't know how to even call it. But alright, Celtic won and we got 3 points. It's all that matters. And hundreds of things that I'm going to complain about is the referees. There's 11 goals for Celtic, but that happens and it will happen in the future. So that's me. You have to be aware of that. But, let me comment that match. So, Celtic won 1-0, right? Celtic secured UEFA Champions League knockout football and 0 victory. So, there's a Swiss side, but Berna, young boys, you know, at Paradise. Here we go again. Here we fucking go at the Paradise. Sorry. Glasgow genuine is always pure crazy. So, it's Glasgow, you know. Just put my traffic on and I'm just as Glasgow, you know. It's just alright. So 1-0 victory over alright, Estelle. So it was a game that Brendan Rodgers self-dominated. And again, that was a game totally dominated by Celtic. Celtic dominated that game with young boys. That was pure brilliant. Great performance, I should say. Had 3 disallowed first half goals as be a missed penalty to show a missed penalty by Arnie Engels for the efforts. And it took only just 5 minutes remained for Celtic, so that's to take a 3 points. So that's my night. Kasper Schmeichel also produced some stunning second half saves that ensure a clean sheet, man. So it was provided attacking threat so that it's not just a game so strong in the Celtic area, you know, and say the first couple of minutes. So the change was quickly. This was that so that's not, it's okay. Like another half an hour before Kasper Schmeichel's goals again. In the intervening period, Celtic dominated at the game, at the ball, and 3 nets, caught City Kyogo. So the goal settled offside, but it is like full in the VR review. So we penalised Callum McGregor for a foul not building up the goal. So the first goals, these are like goals. Games at 6 minutes, man. We made the Kyogo, and then on just through ball. So that's from Arne Engels, but a Japanese striker was just ahead of other defender, and that's the most goals rolled out. So, however, Brendan Rodgers, same side the front foot at least, a pair after pretty difficult to Swiss side the handle man. So, Rio Hatate, and then for the 25th minute, so that was like an age of box saved. So, a 5 minutes later, Kyogo thought I've given Celtic the lead. Callum McGregor, one possession about 40 yards ago, a slotted man, so that is but a hop striker. So, you know, sort of a full game home. So, but the Norwegian referee was advised by the VR officials to review the goal, and then subsequently wrote McGregor for his opening build up for the goal. Disallowing goals for Celtic. I can't agree with that system. VR, as I mentioned, hundreds of times, man, hundreds of times. Just 3 minutes after, later on, Celtic scored again and again, once more. So it's a disallowed man as well. Again, you know. Oh. So it was a week ago rolled off in the slaughter. So that's me and the data these made across. So there was also hit Celtic of the counters attack in the 36 minutes. So very dangerous ball. It could have got a knockout at corner Esther Johnston. And just 3 minutes after, Gypsy Aspern out to open the scoring. So Greg Taylor was pulled down inside the box. The referee pointing, it's by the Arnie Engels. Pass penalty was a B, young boys Bern goalkeeper. The second half, it just became a manner of first Arnie Engels fashions up the inside the box. Hadn't so it was blocked by the keeper. Disney Maeda again couldn't direct header a rebound on target. So both players combined again. So just a said chance for Maeda, you know. But we just pushed behind the corner. So that's 55 minutes. So it's Austin Trusty was a hand header for corner. Here's the effort with a bar just owner. So 3 minutes after, Callum McGregor superb 20-yard effort pushed behind the corners, continued pushing their opening. So, however, at the end, the other of Kasper Schmeichel, the thing has produced stunning double. So we got Dan Darian Miles given the undeserved opening goal, man. With the game of Stanley, so I took a great play. Fortunate Celtic score opening goal 85th minute. So, woo! Ria Haddadi threatening superb play. Arsenal Adamida. So, initial effort or a keeper, bent about net, but young boys, Bern, keeper, Rose Benito. So, there was still a drama as Dazen Maeda. It was initially booked for a tassel, young boy Bern, a decision to upgrade a red card phone VR. I don't know why he got that red card Maeda, but I think it should not be any red card for Maeda. We don't have any striker for the Champions League match with Aston Villa. We don't have a striker as Kyogo, and we don't have Maeda, who will be sitting on the bench because of the red card. That's why he can't play, you know. Is that me, Glasgow genuine? Alright, to use, my love. Alright. Alright, so then I was going to talk about the match, as you know, the match. With Dundee, but it was postponed because of the storm that happened in Glasgow, so AON. Some of you remember maybe some of the older generations of Glaswegians that it'll be a way bit nostalgic just now. So your Glasgow genuine is going to be serious just now. No crazy. But on the 24th of January, it was the Wars Day, when Storm AON just had Glasgow, But Glasgow received that knockout in 1968, so it was in 15th of January 1968. Some of you Glaswegians, older generations of Glaswegians, remember that. It was the worst night ever. The fucking worst night ever, man. So that storm, which hit Glasgow once in 1968, that was the low Q storm hurricane. It destroyed my Glasgow. That storm destroyed Glasgow pure badly, So on the 15th of January 1968, night in the early morning, low Q storm hit Glasgow and they destroyed 300 homes, destroyed Madden Hopkins houses, damaged badly the 7,000 to 250,000 homes. Over 20 people died, lost their lives, So that's how I remember what's happened that day. For the history, of course, the history. So my Glasgow suffered. Not the first time. My Glasgow suffered hundreds of times. My Glasgow got hundreds of knockout strips. And every single knockout, it doesn't matter, that knockout. Glasgow got knockout, and then Glasgow is thriving again. Glasgow got knockout, and my Glasgow is thriving again. My Glasgow is still flourishing. It doesn't matter how hundreds of knockouts Glasgow receives. Glasgow is always flourishing. So as St. Mango said, But let's remember that storm that happened. Maybe it's comparable to that current one, AON storm, but AON storm causes hundreds of damages in Glasgow again, but let's suppose that it won't be that worse as it was in 1968, alright? So let's pray for Glasgow and my Glasgow past and for everyone in Glasgow, alright? So I wanted to remind you that something like that happened. So stay safe, alright? My dear Glaswegians, my best Glasgow pals, alright? So then now I wanted to talk to you about something. This is a map of Glasgow. I'm going to show you. Map of Glasgow is in the west end. We have the south side, and then north is here, and here is the east end. So the D, it will be a wee gander. Wee gander, remember? Remember? Your Glasgow genuine tell is that. Aye. Wee gander means we look around. So we're going to talk about the west end, every part of west end. These were villages of Glasgow. Aye. And then year by year, Glasgow annexed one by one every village and created west, south, north, east, and central, alright? So the day west end, next time south side, so east, north. So I'm starting that series where I'm going to talk about every part of Glasgow, alright? So the day west end, alright? So be prepared for a wee gander day around west end, alright? So let's start, alright? Next time, Glasgow south side, alright? So let's start, my dear troops. Alright, so let me start. First part of west end is woodlands, so your Glasgow genuine is going to talk about it just now. So it is an area of Glasgow situated northwest edge of the city centre, so the woodlands is located within Glasgow's fashionable West End, store, east of Hillhead. So the outside now North Park, district of Kelvingrove Park, is the end of Charing Cross, Garnet Hill. Woodlands has a substantial population of residents of Pakistani Indian heritage, as well as large number of students. And the area is a vicinity of University of Glasgow, Glasgow's West End Gym. And Glasgow School of Art, Mackintosh School of Art. So the housing stock mostly consists of 19th century terraces, townhouses, blonde and residential tenement housing and modern redevelopment, which is predominantly in the tenement style. So that the area of the land of Eastbuck and the River Kelvin. So as you know, was used the industrial era from at least, as you know, early 1600s. So it was a location one of watermill. So it was processed grain in the 1790s. William Gillespie constructed Glasgow's first only water-driven cotton mill. So that's in bleach and the fields located in the vicinity. So as part of the Blisswood estate, Woodlands was officially incorporated into the city of Glasgow in the 1830s. Woodlands became part of Glasgow in 1830s. Alright. Finestone. Next part of West End, Finestone belongs to West End of Glasgow. But Finestone wasn't once called Finestone. It was called Stopcross Lands plus Sandyford. Stopcross Lands, Sandyford, the now known as Finestone. So, as you know, these were Stopcross Lands owned by the John Orr. He made the area thrive. He built some houses, villas, even mansion around 1745. Then his son Matthew Orr was the next owner, and he renamed Stopcross Lands plus Sandyford Finestone in 1768. After his reverend and teacher John Finney, hence Finney, Finestone. Alright. And I know people call that crane Finestone crane, but I'm going to tell you once again, one more time, that it's no Finestone crane, Stopcross crane, man, fucking Stopcross crane, alright? Built by Clyde Navigation Trust around 1931 too. So Stopcross crane, alright. Then the next one is Kelvin Bridge. Kelvin Bridge, as you know, is accompanied by the Great Western Bridge, so it's cast iron rod pedestrian bridge, looking the west end of city of Glasgow. So that's meant to be built and carry the Great Western Road. Great Western Road troops is the longest road in Glasgow. It has 5 kilometres. Great Western Road was built according to Iceland Turnpike Act, initiated by John Gibson. Gibson's owned the Hillhead and the Kelvin side, part of Kelvin side. It was a pure rich family. So John Gibson initiated the act in Iceland, but he went bankrupt. And about 2 years later, between 1838, 1841, according to New Iceland Turnpike Act, Great Western Road was built, then was extended, some improvements were added around 1878, right? So, but continue about Kelvin Bridge. It's a high level across the River Kelvin, so completed in 1891, so that was a Bell Miller. As you know, it replaced older stone bridge and the Partick Bridge, crossing the same river, But located on a short distance of the south base, now been category A listed structure in 1886, so in early 19th century, first Great Western Road Bridge crossing point across boundary city, neighbouring borough of Hillhead, and Scobre city layer, as at low level. Whereas the second larger bridge was built over a high span. So the river is not a name. The adjacent and several points along the course of Kelvingrove Park, Kelvin Hall, Kelvin State, for example. And so there are several Kelvin bridges, including the several miles away and Torrance one. So adjacent the bridge is Kelvin Bridge Subway station at Glasgow Subway, one of the deepest circuit due to proximity of the river. And the southeast end side of bridge was also location Kelvin Bridge Railway, a station of the Glasgow Central Railway. So Kelvin Hall, another part of West End is Kelvin Hall, residential industrial district of Glasgow. Kelvin Hall is between York Hill and Finestone, alright? So 1.5 miles to 0.5 kilometers west of city centre. So rather merged in both these districts. Early industries here included a cotton mill at the Calvin School, shipyard 1830s, then the Queen's Dock developed, as you know. The east of the shipyard 1872, so that was the 80 back closed about in 1960s, you know, and the Anfield provided Scottish Exhibition Conference Centre. So the heavy industries, you know, have gone, and much of the development taking place, including the building of Student Village along Kilkenny Street, principally used the University of Glasgow. The Kilkenny Bridge carried the Clyde Expressway and the River Kelvin on the West York Hill, right? The Clyde Distillery occupies a distinctive former pump house and riverside to the south, man. Next part of Glasgow is Partick. So Partick is I found just a couple of miles northwest of Glasgow, so a city centre. So Partick, known as a Gaelic Partick for Gaelic, was a village's own rights until mid-18th century, but has been in existence since at least 1136. So, the birthplace of comedian Billy Connolly, as you know. Partick is the day known as one of Glasgow's most eclectic and happiest neighbourhoods. As part of a large student population areas home at Riverside Museum, so the tall ship at Calvin Grove, art gallery, a museum, and other popular attractions. And landmarks. Partick also hosted the first ever international football match when Scotland played England in 1872, man. The establishment in the 1840s, you know, and the Todd and McGregor's Meadowside shipyard now moved from the River Kelvin. Partick was transformed for viewing and for village 1,000 and district community 5,000 by 1850s. People poured in looking forward to kind of speak over Scotland, you know, but I don't Ireland. Who says streets, lights, and medical services, and many of the amenities, especially sewage system, that was required to raise necessary finances in the village, you know. Was declared a borough in 1852. After years of wrangling, Glasgow annexed the borough of Partick in 1912, at which the time population was over 50,000. But the Partick commissioners have thoroughly modernised the borough, and there was a street, houses, faint churches and schools, you know. Alright. Then Hillhead. You know Hillhead. Now the part is Hillhead. You know, Glasgow Uni. Alright, so when Hillhead was raised for fuel in 1820s, so that was then it was too remote for Glasgow, and it became the fashionable suburb. So that's after Great Western Road Turnpike Act. It was opened in 1840s. That the Hillhead began to attract a respectable your Glasgow genuines. Sorry, I'm just one. Here he is, Emma. The parents and new residents. So, by the 1860s, Hillhead population had grown to over 3,000. But the protracted haphazard nature of the development had precluded a construction, you know, and the substantial infrastructure. So, residents petitioned to have the Hillhead incorporated and the Post Borough a stationary responsibility for streets drainage, lighting, cleansing, policing, the fire protection, building control. Hillhead was granted borough status in 1869. Defended until finally annexed by Glasgow in 1891. Based on the area on some 130 acres bounded to the River Kelvin, Byers Road, University Avenue. After Glasgow Uni relocated to Gilmore Hill in 1870s, the population of Hillhead grew rapidly, man. By 1900s, tenements became the predominant building type, with the last major developments built in this red sandstone near Byers Road. Hillhead was never as an exclusive ex-Kelvin site in Dunhill, though it attracted sizable population of middle-class professionals, such as ministers, academics, merchants, managers, you know. So, Highland, not the part of Glasgow, is Highland. Situated in the west end of Glasgow, neighbourhood Highland is characterised by the red sandstone tenement buildings and known for being the nicest areas in the city, alright? The area known as Highland, as you know, was farmland until the 19th century. The term Hindland Hindland, appears on medieval maps as a land belonging to bishops of Glasgow. It's speculated that the countryside was included in the grandfather King David I in 1136. So the bishop, following the dispersal of the church lands, when Scotland became Protestant, Hinland passed through many private owners, including Provost of Glasgow, William Anderson. Around 1875, the current owner of the area decided to create feudal. Wherein landowners would pay in the for a feudal superior, so land harkening back feudal Europe, In 1875, construction began on tenement buildings, so that was halted a few years after 1878, but when the city of Glasgow Bank. The second attempt to a few plan occurred in 1897, and building stopped around 1910. So for a couple of reasons. One, in 1905, that recession began, and making it too hard to obtain it. Two, in 1909, David Lloyd George implemented the People's Budget, which heavily taxed the wealthy, seriously depleted amount of money. So, despite these drawbacks, people began to move into those tenements buildings. And in the early 20th century, the tramways were extended to Highborough Road in 1907, and the Clarence Drive in 1910. This made a transportation for the area of the city centre much easier, instead of easing people to live there. So, as you know, so the reputation continued. The reputation of this Hinland area was close enough to industry that community in working on issue, but it's also slightly elevated topographically, so no wind could carry the smell towards it. Therefore, in the mid-1800s, so middle Glasgow could find Hinland. So this reputation continued through the following decades, man. So, as you know, it remains one area of the city, is pure brown area of the city, Glasgow. So that's I think this quaint tenements people, ties people, for charm, for a bygone era. The age of some of the buildings makes it upkeep fairly expensive modernization necessary. For example, some tenement buildings still have windaes in the 1850s. This makes Hinland difficult, or also when a certain earnings bracket and maintains a reputation. So that's something a reputation middle class era. It's important to break down the history of a city like Glasgow, into neighbourhoods. Come at a learning more so human. So the tenement buildings in Hinland, it's worth mentioning, were home to people who lived through the Industrial Revolution and the Clyde Blitz. Doan Hill, it's a small residential area in Glasgow, west end of Glasgow, and this bears south of the Great Western Road. So to the east of Hinland, the quarter mile is 0.5 kilometres. So there's Kevin City, Doan Hill Parish Church was a distinctive spire converted from quarries here in 1984, also located on the Greek Orthodox Cathedral Street, Lucan Evangelist. Notre Dame High School, opened in 1897. Doan Hill Primary School, the University of Glasgow, that's just to the south side. Doan Hill Park and Partick. The comparison both the land of the south side of Highborough Road at the west of Doan Hill 1903. So that was preventing the residential development of the site. So it was known that the wee park, as you know, so to distinguish it for a much larger White Inch Park. The right image of Doan Hill School, Easterside Doan Hill, it cost £20,000 to build, man. Seriously. The next part of Glasgow is Kelvinside. So that's Kelvinside, a district a Scottish city of Glasgow. So situated on the River Clyde, now bound at Bromhill, Doan Hill, Hinland, on the south of Kelvindale, and the River Kelvin to the north, as you know. So your Glasgow genuine, alright? And north is an affluent area of Glasgow, as you know, large Victorian villas and terraces. Kelvinside railway station was a well shared the Bantershire railway, it's now closed. Kelvinside is home to Kelvinside Academy, a private school situated at the corner of Kirkley Road and Bisborough Road. So the corner of Kirkley Road, Great Western Road, used to be a shop called Churchill began to ask green, just a bigger and Versailles garage. So it was known by locals Greeny. In 1990s, and then replaced a new story stone building, a flat with flare and shop on the ground floor. Although clad in brown-stained wood, they refer to the greenery church by local pupils at Kelvinside Academy. Kelvinside was originally part of a Ruchill estate that was acquired in the 17th century by PD family, which produced two of the Glasgow Lords Provost, James, 1717, and son James Jr., 1684, 1728. So it was sold in 1849 to the merchant Alan Dreghorn, and detached part of the estate, which was known as Bankhead. The tobacco merchant Thomas Dunmore acquired Bankhead and renamed it Kelvinside. In 1839, Kelvinside was sold to Matthew Montgomery and John Park Fleming of the Law of Montgomery and Fleming, who formed the Kelvinside Estate Co. and developed the estates. Kelvindale, another part of West End, is Kelvindale man. So as a desirable district of Glasgow, Kelvindale lies on the right bank of the river. So it can be between Annisland and Maryhill. There's a wide with city centre. So much of the housing compares semi-detached to storage properties, man. It was in the 1920s. So that's a steeply sloping Cleven Hill, which represents one of Glasgow's drumlins. They stayed at Plant Garden and the principals of McCaggart and Michael Street, named the English students and cities. The area served a primary, a secondary schools and a location of private Glasgow Naval Hospital. And railway station opened at Kelvindale. Little Kelvindale paper mill, the largest last survived paper mill in Glasgow, which once drew its power from the substantial V-shaped modern River Kelvin established in Balgrey paper mill in James Duncan in the 1720s. So there was an associated staff mill. Glasgow Corporation houses in Kelvindale was council, Glasgow's council houses in the areas of Kelvinsdale, which was generally perceived, as being one of the more better residential areas of Glasgow. Proved particularly, attractive, and the tenants purchased the offers right to buy legislation after Minister Margaret Thatcher's Conservative government. So Broomhill lies to the northwest, particle the southwest of Hinland of Glasgow's West End. Broomhill is located 3 miles northwest of the city centre. So begins as a leafy suburb next to Victoria Park, in around the 1890s. So it's now rather cut off the park at busy, a 739 road dual carriageway forms a northern approach to the Clyde, first one, Clyde Tunnel. The area is now a mix of Victorian villa as well, like red sandstone Victorian, Edwardian tenements, I love these red sandstone tenement strips. Fucking love it. I dream about the Glasgows, so while I'm away, I dream about my Glasgows, deep still blue sky, as I mentioned, red sandstone, deep green. Blocks in the 1930s villas to the north is a semi-detached houses for 1950s, the northeast. So, alright, next one, it's Scottstown, but I'd love to close down my door. Sorry, your Glasgow genuine, it's so fucking stupid sometimes, but alright. So fucking crazy one, seriously. Alright, so let's talk about Scottstown now, another part of West End of Glasgow. So it's located on the north side of River Clyde, as you know. So northwest of Glasgow city centre, But and also south of Jordan Hill, Scottstown, also formed in 1751 until the later 19th century. So the site of the Oswald family estate, and then which centred around Scottstown House, proudly was property of Montgomery's family, sold in 1634 to John Hutchison, notary to clerk of Glasgow. So the Hutchisons sold the estate to William Walkinshaw, who built Scottstown House in the early 18th century. By 1861, the Western Mastership building yards had reached Scottstown with the opening of Charles Connell's Scottstown Yard. Scottstown in 1903 initially built cars, but they are specialised in lorries and buses. The company made shells for vehicles during the First World War, man. So, Charles Connell, as well, became part of ill-fated Upper Clyde shipbuilders for Scottstown. In 1968, so there had been Govan shipbuilders were closed in 1980, so Yarra shipbuilders came to Scottstown in 1906, specialising in warships. This yard became part of Upper Clyde shipbuilders. Nationalised in 1977, had been more successful than BE Systems now, operating alongside their other shipyard in Govan. Southern part of Scotstoun is characterised by late 19th century, early 20th century tenements, so it's north of it mostly the two-story housing for there's some periods, some featuring half Tamebold Gamble Scotstoun Primary School, 1905. This northeast of the area, close to extensive Scotstoun sports centre camps, Scotstoun were a parish church built in 1905 at the corner of Queen's Victoria Drive and Dumbarton Road, but burnt to the ground in 1997. Scotstoun Hill is a wee area, in a small area situated western Glasgow. Between Knightswood and the Scotstoun, housing is mainly terraced, but at villa style, although several high-rise flats, can be found in the area as well. These are built on the side of Scotstoun House Mansion. Victoria Park is also situated here, pure the brilliant park troops. Victoria Park has long been a favourite green space of Glasgow. Gloriously colourful flowers, man, they grow full fogs, ancient forest, been a parks, quite secured places, man, so, but are they full of life, not laughter? Alright, so the land was originally part of Scotstoun Estate, so that was 46 acres, where J. Gordon also had been a bar of Partick, so in 1886, so as soon as the line Victoria Park began to in November, the year on was undertaken an employed shipyard. It works in the area of created carriage, drives and walkbones. Named for Queen Victoria, the park was formally opened by Sir Andrew MacLeod, Provost of Partick, in the summer of Monarch Golden Jubilee year 1887. The Sorsted Park enjoyed bowling, tennis, cricket, football, pool, the yachting, falcon, and the winter a pound, which is skating once it was 8 over. So during the warmer months, so that was a live music concerts, but applies to performances, providing soundtrack for a park life. So Drum Chapel, another part of west end of Glasgow, Drum Chapel, was built was in the 1950s in the effort to tackle Glasgow's desperate, post-war housing shortage. Many people saw their opportunity, to make a new life now themselves, their families, so that had found being approved. It's very close now, quite traumatic, so they didn't live the areas where I had grown up in the parents or grandparents. So in the early days of Drum Chapel housing scheme, was aware to no amenities at all, so that travel restricted bus service not site operated, so only half early intervals. So there's only one post office, a telephone box in the village. People had to travel to Glasgow to pay the rents, ownership their houses, and they wanted to shop the Auckland there were neither shops or public houses. Glasgow Corporation bought the land for its new scheme for a Summerley Iron Company in 1921, so the corporation's aim was to build Garden suburb, so more a version of Garden City, it's moving further on time, so although smaller, in the similar of Welvin Garden City, but like wasn't the Hertfordshire, there's in the Knightswoodshire, but similarities with them. Each house in Knightswood was to have its own garden, and the house in the scheme was also incorporate other green spaces, so before the purchase by Glasgow Corporation, Knightswood was a rural area. The new we're talking about Knightswood, right? But what I want to mention that Drum Chapel was as well was going to had something had something to do with a Singer Sewing Machine Company factory in Clydebank, so in the shipbuilding as well. So Knightswood is a rural area. Knightswood, next part of West End. So it was in the country. Dumbarton, the parish, of the New Kilpatrick. So there's a country location, but it's a perfect settlement on a few public buildings. So there's existing development, Knightswood Hospital. There was a shared venture between the Barras and the Halhead Merhill Partick, So your Glasgow genuine. So completed in 1877, and originally known as the Joint Infectious Diseases Hospital, and developed specialism in smallpox and tuberculosis. Once Knightswood had been bought by the corporation, was absorbed to Glasgow in 1926. However, plans for development, the land for housing were already in motion before this. The area set of the architecture plans of Knightswood date 1923. Knightswood was in the south side counterpart, Moss Park, marked the turning point for Glasgow cooperation. So it was the first time that purchased specifically for house building. Previous annexations to Glasgow had already existence of urbanization areas like Hillhead, Maryhill, Partick, and Legacy. So Dawson Park, another part of West End, a park. Situated on the River Kelvin, north of the River Clyde, as you know. The park covers 33 acres, 81 acres, so it consists most of woodland, with some grasswood, flower, and the meadows surface area of the park, and Park of Creative Lands purchase of Glasgow City Council for Sir Archibald Campbell Suckoff in 1922, As well, that woodland area originally called the Belvedere Plantation. The council also contaminated O'Shell, the John eastern boundary of the woodland. The council levelled the grass over area for recreation related to football pitches. The woodland area of the park has always kept it in natural state. In 2007, Glasgow City Council designated the park of local nature reserve. Thornwood, another part of West End. Thornwood is a district of Glasgow situated on the north bank of the River Clyde, but 2.5 miles, 4 kilometres. So it's not really the city centre. So Thornwood lies in between Broomhill and Partick, in the West End, but often considered a western section of the latter. So the area is dominated 4-storey blocks. So that's a Dawson that Sanson built in the 1890s. With beige Harold Denham blocks featuring balconies in the early 1950s. Also notable crafty court to the Brock Flats by Big Glasgow Corporation and Married Woman in 1947, as regarded as the first of Glasgow's hay races. Annie's Land, another part of West End, is a district of West End of Glasgow, so it's situated in Glasgow, right? So after the River Clyde, the Senners. Senners is a major road, junction of the Great Western Road and Crow Road, Bearsden Road, known as Annisland Cross. Originally farm owned by Jordan Hill Estate, was solely sold off by the Victorian era as Glasgow. Quickly expanded its collection of small shops and stores now located at Annisland railway station, so on the Argyll, North, Clyde and Maryhill lines, which provides frequent links to the centre of the city, as you know. Annisland Cross, the block of buildings and Annisland Mansions, which was built between 1907 and 1913 and occupies the corner of Great Western Road and Crow Road. In 2004, Historic Scotland announced that the block was to be included and register the listed buildings. So the road junction, and been radically remodeled. Jordan Hill, another part of West End, is the affluent area of West End of Glasgow, The area consists largely of terraced housing dating back very mid-20th century, with some detached, semi-detached homes and some modern apartments. Jordan Hill College of Education, University of Strathclyde, so that's a faculty education, were formerly, as you know, in the area of associated with the school has a high reputation. So the family was the Smiths of Jordan Hill. Their papers were the very first private collection of Glasgow archives acquired. So the Smiths estate family, legal household papers for centres of business, so it concerns a private life. So the family connection with Jordan Hill began to Archibald Smith of West India. They bought Jordan Hill House in the 1800s, so they subsequently enlarged the estate. So it's a part of Renfrewshire. The papers of Smiths rely on a later generation of their family, including some notable personalities. One of the family patriarchs was the James Smith, whose many interests, passions included archaeology, architecture, geology, yachting. Exploring was a particular passion for Smith. He honoured his friends, architect, explorer general Captain Douglas Cavern, so as you know. So the name is daughter Sabina Douglas Cavern Smith. She herself was a childhood friend of William Thompson. When they were adults, they proposed marriage several times. That doesn't matter, man, seriously. So, Woodside, another part of Glasgow, a residential district of central Glasgow, but it's in West End. Woodside is built by M.A. Morley, so that is south, not a Great Western Road and River Kelvin. So, This is west at the Glasgow branch of the Forth Clyde Canal. So in north of the east. So the areas divided Maryhill Road, Garskel Road. In the 1920s, sizable villas on the terraces properties were built to accommodate the affluent residents, good quality tenements, followed by the middle classes, also factories northward Progden from the Socialhusen. West Side was designed to last Glasgow's comprehensive redevelopment area in 1964, and this many was original husen. A good band of factories level to the redevelopment of modern husen. Alright. Whitehenge. And I'll tell you so, I discovered that part of Glasgow today. West End, but Whitehenge? What house Whitehenge? Whitehenge. I was just, what? What is that, man? So Whitehenge was a part of expanding city of Glasgow in 1912, for the part of the parish of Govan. It was originally an island of the Clyde, so better from Whitehenge. Enge being an island and Scots. However, it was during that time there are Clyde floats. Naturally, it's a shallow wade river. The Glasgow suburb of Whitehenge sat between Scotstoun and Partick, So originally an island, because when Enge meaning island, which is connected to the northern bank of the River Clyde, is settled in the 18th century. Was low-flying farmland owned by the Smith family of Jordanhill, as I mentioned. Dredging the River Clyde allowed to raise the level of the settlement, the greater permanent attachment of the bank. By the 1860s, there were 4 shipyards here, including Whitehenge Yard, and the Clyde Home Yard of Whitehenge developed a distinctive settlement. Industrial development continued. It was decided by the city fathers of Glasgow that deepening the Clyde would enable ships to slip down the Clyde with a cargo element independent arrived of a sleigh and building ships. So, and by around 1830s, Barnet had carried it. So there was a dredging. Here's a problem, was that with that rock and dispose of. Been a great priority, dredging taking place, man. As but dredge material should be taken down the river, so this is possible long. Pretty expensive team. Mr. James Smith of Jordanhill was one of the wealthy of Glasgow merchants of the day. He owned the lands of Whitehenge, Jordan Vale, negotiated a deal with the Clyde Trust and allowed them to ghost and dispose it, and the dredging on his low Whitehenge, Jordan Vale. The salt is taken punts are being done by steamboats. The grounds on the low part of farm have been raised at 10 to 15, so from a statistical account of Lanarkshire Govan. Yoker, the name. Yoker dates back to 12th century and was once a part of county of Renfrewshire. But 14th century, Yoker was marked crossing point of the river, so a ferry continues to link the area with the Renfrew, the south bank, A whisky distillery established in 17th century, western suburb of Glasgow, and east of the Clyde bank. Yoker is on north bank of the River Clyde, 5 miles northeast of Glasgow city centre. So, but 14th century, ferry linked Yoker in the Renfrew south bank. So, a whisky distillery was established here in late 18th century, so 1877. Napier Shanks Bell opened the Yoker Old Shipyard. The arrival of the railway depended on offshore waters, 1881, encouraged the building of larger vessels, motor vehicles, tramcars, manufactured in Yoker, which is now operations centre of Glasgow's suburban rail service. The Harry's social housing blocks were built in Plain Street mid-1960s, which proved popular with those families displaced due to slum clearance. By 1930, shipbuilding largely disappeared, and unemployment brought social problems. Blair Derdy. Aye, it's a part of West End of Glasgow, So, it's a neighbourhood of Glasgow, situated north of the River Clyde, the West End of Glasgow. The northeast West Glasgow, surrounded by other areas like Knightswood, Old Drumchapel, Garskaden. Alright? But Garskaden is less known. It's not even on the map. So it was been between 1950s, 1960s. The main thoroughfare is Great Western Road, runs through the middle of the Creighton South Blair Derdy, Kill Avenue, Kill Crescent, Kill Driveman. So it's which extended to Forth and Clyde Canal, and North Blair Derdy, which extends out Drumchapel Road in the north. Nu blir daar die consists of mostly terrace which is conservative area and a mixture of owner-occupied they rented. Alright, Netherton, another one. So the district of Glasgow, the north of the city, bound at a temple the south, Nicewood, and the western like Bearsden, so Bellis to north the east. Netherton appeals John Blue, 1662, Atlas of Scotland. Many subsequent old maps. The street was founded in around 1930s. It's a street close to a local shops in the heart and the Park district. Part of the city council, Netherton was originally a village of its own, situated in the parish of Kilpatrick, the new Kilpatrick in Dunbartonshire. Local industry in the area during early 19th century, is recorded by parish recorder, including sandstone quarry, Netherton, supplying stone building, large local houses, in Garscroop on Blathwood. But of sufficient quality exported overseas, in the West Indies. The village was annexed by Glasgow's expansion in 1912, then completely absorbed in the 1920, the nice the state was built. So, Temple, like many of Glasgow suburbs, was originally village's own. It's situated parish Kilpatrick as well, there Kilpatrick, Dunbartonshire. It was swallowed by Glasgow expansion in 19th century, so early 20th century. So next by Glasgow around 1912, so Australia. A suburb of Glasgow, Temple is 40 miles for a city centre, north of Great Western Road, and Iceland southwest, not just Fortnite, Clyde Canal, It's another district as well, Claythorne House, 1905, Claythorne. Right, so that was west end of Glasgow. A wee gander. Wee gander? If that was wee gander for your Glasgow genuine. I don't know if it was a wee gander. Maybe wee gander around the west end of Glasgow, every part of Glasgow. So I wanted to share with that. Share that way. So the new. As you know, yesterday was a Burns night. So maybe I'll tell you. Maybe I want to tell you something about Burns Night. How to celebrate Burns Night. So it's that great, pure the brilliant Robert Burns night. Great, pure the brilliant poet. So, hand guide to Burns Night, So, how to plan your Burns Night? The fucking pure the brilliant how to celebrate Burns Night? First of all, let's start with Burns Night as Burns marks the anniversary of the poet Robert Burns, as you know, and the birth of our most famous celebrated Scots. Given that Robert Burns was born on the 25th of January 1759, Burns Night takes place on the 25th January each year. Many mark the occasion by going to Burns Supper. What's Burns Supper? It's held throughout the world. Burns Night during close now. A tradition of Burns Supper is an evening event that celebrates Robert Burns' life and work. So how did Burns Night Supper begin? How did it begin? Was the story, was the roots, how it's ingrained in Glasgow, Scotland, alright? First Burns Supper was held in July 1901, so by the 9 of Burns, close friends go together mark the 5th anniversary of their friend's death, so taking place at Burns Cottage in Alloway. So it included tasty meal, haggis and curacao. Of course, man. Performers of Burns were a speech and honour, so a great bard, now known as the immortal memory. Now such resounding success have decided to hold again. This time, they honoured the Rabbi's birthday. Beginning a tradition that still enjoyed to this day. What happens at Burns Supper? Everyone enjoys, as usual, hearty Burns night meal, which included haggis, nips and ties, rounded off with drums of whiskey. Some of Burns' poem songs are recited, tributes are made to great bards. Each Burns Supper is individual, but the running order normally goes something like this. They start, everyone gathers, the host says a few words, everyone sits, and the Celtic grace is said. The meal, the starter is served, the haggis is piped in, by the sound of bagpipes, and host performs famous Burns Night haggis poem addressed to the haggis. Give her haggis, man. So everyone toasts the haggis. And the main meal is served followed by dessert. After the meal, the first Burns recital and performed after Burns Night food. It's on immortal memory, so main tribute speech to Burns give a second Burns recital. and they performed the Toast the Lassie's Fall Barry played the Toast the Lassie's na before Fina Baron's restaurant is performed. So at the end of the night, Hos gives you a vote of thanks, man. Thanks for everyone's and I think all lang syne. Crossing their arms, joining huns, all together in a line, and there's the hun, my trusty fair. So Ben's night poems, it's addressed to the Haggis, Selkirk, Greece. It's popular one, all lang syne. But my favourite is as well, as you know, earnest cry and prayer. In other words, freedom and whiskey gang together. So it's a long, you know, it's a long, you know, poem. But I'd love to read the last verse of that poem. So Scotland, my old respected mother, to fails the most fair leather. Till where ye sit on crops of heather, ye tain your dam, freedom and whiskey, gang together, tak off your drum. So, tribute to Robert Burns. Aye. So, alright to use. Do you know where to celebrate your next Burns night in my Glasgow? I'd love to celebrate that Burns night in Glasgow trip, seriously, man. Woo! So you can celebrate it as Seasons, the Swans, the Barfly, the Pig, Marchanta, Glasgow, Candorex, situated in Candorex, Glasgow, the Pussy, Oranmere, situated in the just across the road with the Botanic Gardens, the Martin Road, Byers Road, alright? So the next one is Kelvin Grove Burns Night concert, Ubiquitous Chip, the one at Ashtonley. And the next time you want to spend your Burns Night in Glasgow, these are the places you can celebrate it. You never forget a night in Glasgow, because Glasgow knows how to date, man. Glasgow knows how to party. Glasgow knows how to have fun, you know. So Glasgow is a place like no other, man. Glasgow's the grandest, you know what I mean? So Glasgow is second to none. I'm going to mention it hundreds of times, because I love this city so fucking much, you know. Here I am, your Glasgow genuine, you know. Glasgow is a city tune I love so well. Plus, of course, Celtic FC, you know. So, what I'm going to do next time, I'm going to tell you a history of every single part of South Side of Glasgow. So next Sunday, South Side of Glasgow, right? History. The day I covered West End, the next Sunday will be South Side of Glasgow, right? And of course, man, I share with you some Celtic news, plus I comment Celtic matches for you, alright? So, alright. So, have a pure brilliant evening. Hundreds of kisses I'm sending you. Your Glasgow genuine and Celtic daft too, alright? Mwah.